You know Gray Bar for electrical parts. But there's one more thing you may not be thinking of us for that can help maximize your next project's total value. Our pre-project planning services are designed to help you win the bid, save on labor costs, and keep your installers productive across your entire build. The sooner you call us, the better. Because when we're there from the beginning, we can anticipate your needs and help you solve problems before they become problems. Yep, Gray Bar does that.
Welcome to this week's episode of the Show Before the Show podcast, the official podcast of Minor League Baseball on a Thursday morning / afternoon. I guess we're recording this morning for me. It's afternoon for you. Hello, gents. My name is Tyler Mon, Sam Dykstra, and Benjamin Hill in New York City. What's going on, you guys?
Hello, Tyler. How are you? You actually have come recently from a minor league location.
I have for the first time since April of 2019. I went to a minor league ballpark this past weekend, got a chance to catch a couple of games in Albuquerque, New Mexico. I saw the Isotopes play on Friday, and then I saw the Albuquerque Dukes play, the Topes in their throwback uniforms on Saturday, which was very cool. I now own, I think, 6 Albuquerque Isotopes hats, which is probably overkill. Topes hats, a Mariachi's hat, their Copa identity, a couple of Dukes hats, and now I have a green chili cheeseburgers hat also, and it was fantastic. But man, it was great. Like being back in a minor league ballpark was, it was crazy how long it has been, and it felt very good to be back.
Yeah, and what stood out about being back in Albuquerque specifically?
Just how normal it felt, with fans there, with full capacity, all of that. There was a fireworks night on Saturday. Just being back in the surroundings of a minor league ballpark where Orbit, the mascot, is there, and they're still doing the taco races between the 5th and 6th inning. I want to say, like it really felt. I think at the beginning of the season, we all kind of expected these sort of watered down versions of sporting events. And for a time when it felt like, all right, we're really coming out of this pandemic, it seems like we started to get a lot of that good stuff back. And thankfully, fortunately, in most places, it is still that way. But that's what was so cool, was it just felt like, oh yeah, this is the minor league atmosphere that I remember and missed so very much. And that was very cool. It did feel strange, that it had been 2.5 years since I had been to a game, essentially. But I was very glad to break that streak because it was way too long.
So what was the final tally on how many green chili food items you ended up having?
I believe that of all of the meals that I had, I think only one of them was non-grill and green chili inclusive, but now I can't even remember which one that was. So I had a green chili cheeseburger on the way down, and then a breakfast burrito the following morning, which of course is loaded up with green chili. And then, I know what it was. I had, I think it's called Dion's Pizza, which is at the ballpark in Albuquerque. Although, nope, now that I think about it, I did have a slice that also had green chilies on it. So yeah, maybe every meal that I had actually was green chili inclusive, because then it was breakfast burritos the next day, along with a cinnamon roll from this place called Frontier, which is pretty legendary.
Wait, the cinnamon roll had green chili on it?
No. I'm just saying the cinnamon roll. Oh, you said food items. Yeah, true. Okay, so the cinnamon roll does not count. And my slice of pepperoni only pizza does not count. But the meals, all of my meals had at least some.
Okay. All right. I got concerned though when you were just like, yeah, there was the breakfast burrito.
It's a green chili. I'd probably eat a green chili cinnamon roll, to be honest. I'd give it a shot.
It's got to be out there somewhere.
A little spicy, a little sweet. Yeah, I'm into it. Ben, how much green chili have you consumed in your travels to Albuquerque? You've been there a couple times.
Yeah, I've been there a couple times. Not a ton. But one thing, and this is an unfortunate, COVID restriction right now, there's no condiment bars.
Yeah.
At ballparks, and Albuquerque was the only place I've ever been to, and fittingly, being Albuquerque in New Mexico and home of the green chili, they had green chilies at the condiment bar just alongside, ketchup, mustard, relish, mayo. They had a thing of green chilies, so you could literally top anything with green chilies. So I had some green chilies at the ballpark. And I bought like some weird green chili stuff at like gas stations and just along the way. I think I got some like green chili, like peanut brittle.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, a sweet and savory mix. But it's good. I like the heat. I like regional foods, and I'm all about it. And here's hoping that condiment bars return sometime in the near future and in Albuquerque. green chilies as a condiment. Hope they return very soon.
That's
Actually,
the step I want to see come next, is just like, what's the craziest condiment you can put in your stand when we get those?
Yeah.
Maybe
And I will say they did have condiment stands in Albuquerque. I did not pass one that had green chilies, but I did. And now, oddly, ironically, I'm remembering the one thing that I ate that was not green chili inclusive. I got nachos there, but they were like barbecue nachos. So it was like chips, nacho cheese, pulled pork, and then barbecue sauce on top. But they did have jalapenos. The jalapenos were very good to add to it. But yeah, I would have loaded it up with green chili had it been there. And they were probably like, we got to get this away from this dude. He's gonna
Oh, interesting.
melt
Yeah, I did
himself
not
down.
realize that condiment bars had returned in any way, shape, or form. It turns out they have, and then the green chilies are missing. The plot thickens. This is worthy of a whole investigative report. But
This is going to be, we're going to do a serial style podcast about where the green chilies went at the condiment bar in Albuquerque.
I'm just saying, we're coming up on a long off season ahead. People are going to be more creative than ever.
That is true.
Like, get creative with the condiment bars.
That is true. I'm pretty certain that Kevin Collins, the Albuquerque PR guy, listens to the show every week. He would probably give us some insight into what's going on. They did not anymore have the tumbleweed burger, which was the burger that they had that had like ghost pepper cotton candy on it. And I was gonna try it, and then I will say I was not depressed that it was no longer offered, because I know it would have been like, oh, this is interesting, and then knowing me, I would have eaten the entire thing, and then I would have been like miserable later, like, why did I have a burger with cotton candy on it? So I was okay with that.
it did look pretty good. The chef actually who created that burger, Ryan Curry, moved along to Rocket City Trash Pandas.
Right.
So he is now doing that job. And I think when he left, I don't think his successor clearly decided not to proceed with the tumbleweed burger with like a red chili infused cotton candy on the burger.
Yeah, and I think it was ghost pepper cheese maybe, or a ghost pepper bun or something like that. So it was like very spicy and also sweet, and a burger.
How many things are you going to Mad Lib into this burger?
What is the grab bag of food things that you can toss on as a burger? Well, it was a very fun weekend, and Ben's actually got another weekend coming up at a minor league ballpark. As we thank you, of course, for tuning in on this week's episode of the show before the show. You can get in touch with us, podcast at MiLB.com. You can give us a rating and a review, and of course, only if it's 5 stars, and a subscription, and let us know what you think of the show. We are so delighted that we are back in a world where we can visit minor league ballparks and stuff. And Ben is headed to Sam's neck of the woods, Sam's ancestral neck of the woods, in Worcester, Massachusetts. You were headed to see the Woo Sox this weekend.
That's correct. Polar Park. I will be there Friday. Oh, whoa. I hadn't even thought about that. Friday, August 13th.
Friday the 13th.
Friday the 13th. I'll be there
Ooh.
Friday the 13th and Saturday the 14th, which is, I remember from my youth, Saturday the 14th was a series of Friday the 13th comedic horror movies.
Oh, okay.
There was a whole Saturday the 14th franchise that made fun of horror movie slasher tropes. Anyway, I will be there on Friday the 13th, Saturday the 14th, the Woo Sox, Polar Park. As I mentioned in this podcast before, I'm in a new era of my life, working part-time right now and staying home with my son the other days. So I'm kind of all over the place, switching back and forth between home and work and this, that, and the other. But, I made it to Fredericksburg a couple weekends ago, making it to Polar Park this weekend, just trying to do what I can while there's still a season to be had to hit a few of these new ballparks. And I'm looking forward to this one. I mean, Sam's an expert on, he's been to the ballpark and an expert on the area. So I will do my best to do him proud, which is basically my MO in everything I do. WWSD is my motto. No, WWSDD.
I was going to say,
Yes.
yeah, you're missing another initial in there.
Sam,
But
we're doing the ballpark guides, and we're going to talk a little bit more about the ballpark guide project, of course, like as the offseason gets here and all that. But if you were to give somebody a preview of Worcester, you've been to Worcester a few times now and checked out Polar Park. If you were to tell somebody like, all right, here's what you got to do, food places you got to go, things you got to see at the park, give us the rundown.
Yeah, I mean, I think the thing that's going to stand out, and that's the great thing about Ben going, is that Ben is going to be looking for like local touches in the way that I was. I mean, the Worcester Wall and right is immediately going to stand out to anybody who goes there. Obviously, they're trying to evoke something of a green monster there, but it's also because of similar to what we saw in Hartford, where it was built into a city block. You only have a limited amount of space, so they put up the wall essentially to help with home runs. It seems to have worked pretty well. I think that right field area is a place where I know a lot of folks that have been to games love to hang out. That's been a huge deal. Also, Ben, how do you feel about seltzer? Are you a seltzer person? I've never really seen you drink seltzer much around the office.
No, I don't drink it around the office. I like it fine. I'll have a seltzer on occasion and occasionally a hard seltzer, such as it were, but I don't seek them out particularly.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's funny. I grew up around Polar Seltzer and I didn't grow up with it either. I'm not a huge seltzer person, but it's very easy to find around the ballpark. Polar made sure its imprint is at the stadium. I'm trying to think of what I've eaten there in the past. Yeah, there's not really much there. I mean, I don't think you're much of a coffee person either, right?
I'll drink it. Same with seltzer. I drink it. But
I will say Dunkin' tastes better at home. So if you want it's like Guinness in Ireland. It does taste better at home. So get that around the ballpark as well. But what I'm most interested in is Ben is not somebody from the area. He's going to look at it through completely different eyes than I did, and through the eyes of, okay, this is another minor league stadium. How does it compare across the country? We were talking to folks from the IL East just last week, and when I was wearing my Worcester Red Sox hat, they were like, "Oh, we've heard great things about that stadium. It seems to have come along well, and their teams have played there and given it good reviews." So excited to see what Ben can bring back in the stories. What are you looking forward to most, like in your research?
It seems like an interesting ballpark. I mean, there's obviously an interesting story behind it because a long and arduous and often controversial road from the transition of that franchise from Pawtucket to Worcester. And Worcester was not the original choice when the new ownership group bought the team and they wanted to move to Providence. So I think it'll be interesting to see, just after all this time and all this back and forth and a lot of kind of soap opera elements. Okay, here's what it all turned into. Does this make sense? And is it a good fit? And I've never been in Worcester at all before. So just interesting to see that city, interesting to see architecturally how the ballpark blends into the city, learn as much as I can in a short amount of time to understand some of the references. I have heard that there is a lot of like food and drink, kind of like Sam alluded to, like in the ballpark as well, that ties into local areas. So to me, it's always a crash course in local history that I enjoy. So that's the main thing for me, for sure. And from there, it's just all the little things you can't quite plan for. I just hope to be open and available and meet people and see what leads to what.
It's coming up this weekend, and something that's coming up tonight that's very cool in the baseball world. We're recording on Thursday. The Field of Dreams game is tonight. The New York Yankees and the Chicago White Sox will have a baseball matchup under the lights, not on the actual Field of Dreams site. I feel like that was kind of a misconception for a lot of people, my mom especially, but she doesn't know how to download podcasts, so I'm not really issuing the correction on here for her. But it is on a field kind of adjacent to the actual film site at the Field of Dreams movie site in Dyersville, Iowa. And I'm so excited for this game tonight. It is very rare that I am this excited for a regular season matchup, especially between the Yankees and White Sox, two teams that I don't follow super closely. But tonight is going to be super cool. And we were talking earlier today about if we could have a selection for a minor league game of this kind, a special location, something that, inspires people in its own way for a minor league matchup. What would we choose? And we've seen minor league teams play, ahead of the Little League Classic. And, there was a home run derby on an aircraft carrier for the California League several years ago. There's been very cool events kind of in this vein, but obviously nothing on this scale. If you guys had a choice of a place where minor league teams could match up and have an event kind of like the Field of Dreams game, what would you go with?
Sam, would you like to go first?
Yeah.
Should I take this one? Well,
you go first, Pat.
Okay, I will go first. There are some precedent somewhat for this, obviously, with the Rickwood Classic, that the Birmingham Barons have done every year. Rickwood was that team's home from 1910 through 1986. And going back once a year to play a game in a classic ballpark. I think that's a model. If we're putting aside the feasibility right now, I think that's a really cool thing to think about. For our own dreaming and scheming, what are older ballparks that would be fun to see a game in now? So I think of Engel Stadium in Chattanooga, which I was fortunate enough to visit, not on my most recent trip to Chattanooga, but the two times prior to that. And that is a ballpark kind of like Rickwood, that operated, in the 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s for decades and decades and decades. And in recent years, there were efforts to revitalize it, and they never got far enough to really bring it up to professional standards. But I would love to see that stadium, truly refurbished and played a real minor league game, played in that ballpark a la Rickwood Field with the throwback uniforms and tributes to, people from that ballpark's history. The owner of the team was Joseph Engel. The ballpark is named for him, and he was a real, P.T. Barnum kind of guy, whatever, live elephants at the ballpark or giving away a house. And, he was famously behind the Jackie Mitchell pitching in the exhibition game against the Yankees and striking out Babe Ruth and Lou Gehrig. So a lot of history, a lot of kind of over the top carnival-esque ballpark history there. So I would love to see that place come alive in the year 20, in the present day, and to celebrate that history, but also see baseball there now. This is, I think, kind of the direction I would go, in a fanciful, but not completely fanciful type direction. I know if we really start thinking about it, you come up with all kinds of crazy scenarios. I mean, I'd say build a ballpark on the moon, but one thing at a time.
We already have that in Coors Field.
True.
Coors.
Or maybe I guess Albuquerque would be the minor league version of that. The one that stands out to me is if we're doing Field of Dreams and we're trying to allude to cinematic history, what is the greatest minor league movie of all time? It's probably Bull Durham. I'm not going to go
Air Bud 7th inning fetch.
Is that a minor league?
I don't even know if that's a minor league.
Oh, okay.
I've never seen anything Air Buds. I don't know.
Okay. I mean, it could be. You wouldn't.
It's entirely possible.
But Bull Durham obviously exists. We were talking about this before the show started as well. They currently play in the DBAP, the Durham Bulls Athletic Park. They used to play in the Durham Athletic Park, the DAP. That still exists, I believe. So why not play a game there? Like they recently dressed up as the Durham Lollygaggers. They've done that this season, alluding to the movie itself. It wouldn't be as cool as Field of Dreams. I get it. Coming out of the corn is a whole big thing, and that's a reference in itself. You're not really going to have that unless every meeting on the mound is mic'd up and guys are talking about wedding gifts and stuff. That would actually be
candlesticks. Always make a nice gift.
Yeah. Do something like that. Just mic everybody up so you can hear everything, and even hear the catcher talk to the batter or something like that. I don't know. Maybe there would be ways to do it. It's probably never going to happen in that way, but even in just a fun way to have it in the old stadium, have guys aim for the bull like they do now at the DBAP, but give it a little bit of a retro feel. Another Kevin Costner movie. I guess we could invite him down, have him be part of the thing all over again. That's what stands out to me. I mean, there've been some cool ones over the years. I don't know how this would work in terms of a game, but we've seen home run derbies on airline carriers, aircraft carriers, air carriers, aircraft carriers. Could that work? That would be kind of neat. Something with a cool background, maybe something in a national park. I know that would require stripping down some of the parks. Maybe that wouldn't work, but give it that natural feel that you're getting in Iowa. I don't know. There's a bunch of ideas. And if anybody out there is listening and wants us to sit around for a powwow and brainstorm some of these, that would be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I think we would all gladly take that. I've got two suggestions. One is in the Detroit area, Hamtramck Stadium, which is one of, I think, 5 remaining Negro League stadiums in the country, recently was approved with financial backing and all of that for a full restoration. And I think that would be amazing to bring baseball back to a place where it hosted as many as 17 future Baseball Hall of Fame inductees over its original baseball life, and kind of was a ballpark that looked as though it would be lost to history for some time and now has been saved and is on the road back to being a useful ballpark for the community and all of that. So Hamtramck Stadium, I think, would be very cool. If we're going kind of in the mold of, when Major League Baseball put a ballpark on a military base a few years ago, or building a temporary ballpark, in Iowa for the Field of Dreams, I think a place where it'd be very cool, even though this is an apocryphal tale, but one of the tales of baseball's founding is that Abner Doubleday pioneered the game playing on the shores of Lake Otsego, which is in Cooperstown, or Cooperstown, I should say, borders it. I don't know. It'd be kind of cool to build a ballpark on the shores of that lake and play in the home of the Baseball Hall of Fame and all that. I know they have a stadium there. I know that Doubleday Field is a thing that exists, but that'd be kind of cool if you were going to do the temporary baseball facility sort of thing. I think that'd be a neat one. And what a backdrop that would be too.
For sure.
It'd be cool. So, we have ideas. And if anybody is listening who needs ideas from us, podcast at MiLB.com. Okay, here is our topic du jour today. The Pensacola Blue Wahoos have a thing coming up. Ben, I just got to let you explain it. Tell us about Crabzilla, the burgeoning legend of Crabzilla.
Yeah. The Pensacola Blue Wahoos offer a concession item called the Crabzilla, which looks about like what you'd probably think a Crabzilla sandwich would look like. Huge amounts of crab, and costs $25, and soft shell crab, dash of pork belly, just a dash of pork belly, Parmesan, crab, macaroni and cheese, fried shrimp, hush puppies, lettuce and tomato. So the Crabzilla is an over-the-top, attention-getting ballpark food item that the Blue Wahoos have done pretty well with. Kind of took on a cult life of its own at the ballpark, this massive seafood sandwich. So the Blue Wahoos thinking, well, how do we capitalize on this? On Wednesday, August 11th, they had the Festival of Crabzilla, in which they celebrated this ballpark sandwich. But not only that, they dressed up in Crabzilla uniforms, which they deemed to be the ugliest uniforms in baseball history, featuring most notably a crab on the butt of the pants, and those crab eyes looking back at you from the butt of a player's pants. These orange, I guess you call it orange, a dark burnt orange head to toe uniform with Crabzilla logo on the butt. So we're going to talk to some Pensacola Blue Wahoos principals, including the chef who invented the sandwich and the team president, Travis Wilson and Jonathan Griffith, respectively, and hear a lot more about Crabzilla.
Eczema is unpredictable, but you can flare less with Ebglyss, a once-monthly treatment for moderate to severe eczema. After an initial 4-month or longer dosing phase, about 4 in 10 people taking Ebglyss achieved itch relief and clear or almost clear skin at 16 weeks. And most of those people maintain skin that's still more clear at 1 year with monthly dosing.
Ebglyss, lebrikizumab LBKZ, a 250 milligram per 2 milliliter injection, is a prescription medicine used to treat adults and children 12 years of age and older who weigh at least 88 pounds or 40 kilograms with moderate to severe eczema, also called atopic dermatitis, that is not well controlled with prescription therapies used on the skin or topicals, or who cannot use topical therapies. Ebglyss can be used with or without topical corticosteroids. Don't use if you're allergic to Ebglyss. Allergic reactions can occur that can be severe. Eye problems can occur. Tell your doctor if you have new or worsening eye problems. You should not receive a live vaccine when treated with Ebglyss. Before starting Ebglyss, tell your doctor if you have a parasitic infection.
Ask your doctor about Ebglyss and visit ebglyss.lilly.com or call 1-800-LILY-RX or 1-800-545-5979.
Here on the Show Before the Show podcast, myself, Ben Hill, Tyler Maughan, Sam Dykstra. We are joined by two very special guests, Pensacola Blue Wahoos president Jonathan Griffith and Pensacola Blue Wahoos executive chef Travis Wilson. And they are both here to talk about the Crabzilla, a concession item turned more than a concession item, to put it mildly. The team on Wednesday evening had their first festival of Crabzilla, wore Crabzilla-themed uniforms they called the ugliest in baseball. But first, let's start with how this all began as literally a concession item created by Chef Travis. You tell us about the origin story of the Crabzilla.
The true origin of the Crabzilla was back in 2012. We created a sandwich called the Battleship, which was similar to the Crabzilla, but a bigger version. And so when I came back to the Wahoos in 2019, during a front office meeting right during the All-Star break, John issued me a challenge to try and come up with something man versus food, like just over the top, to bring us back for the second half and get everybody excited. And so I kind of thought back about the Battleship and how anything with soft shell crab is just a showstopper because it's just so ornate and like just catches your eye no matter what you do. And then I know John's a big fan of crab, so I said, let's just take it over the top and do crab 4 different ways, and then just really emphasize the crab. And so we kind of played around with it and came up with it, and it just caught fire from there.
Yeah, and how many would you say? How many Crabzillas would you say you sell at the ballpark on any given day?
On a decent day, we'll sell about 8 to 10. But last night we sold 53
during the festival of Crabzilla. Yeah, I mean it's a big ticket item. $25, I'm sure, it can feed a lot more than one person, to say the least. And what are the ingredient lists for everyone who is trying to visualize this in their mind? How is the Crabzilla constructed?
All right, so from top to bottom, on the bottom bun, you got a crab tartar sauce, which has lump crab in it, and some pickles and all that stuff. Then you got lettuce, tomato, some bacon, a gigantic soft shell crab that's been fried to GBD, golden brown and delicious. And then you top that with our Parmesan crab mac and cheese, 3 fried shrimp. Then you put the top bun of the brioche. We hit it with a skewer and finish that with a crab hush puppy. And then on the side, there are some crab seasoned fries. So it's a monstrosity in a good way.
Can we have this overnighted / just like instantly transported to my desk right now? It's like, this is like a Pavlovian thing. I'm like, my mouth is actually watering now.
I'll see what I can do.
But now, not only is it just a concession item, it is now a team identity. There's Crabzilla logos and uniforms, and you guys wore them on the field on Wednesday. Very proud of how ugly they are, it seems. So, Jonathan, can you take us through how the Crabzilla went from concession to uniform?
Well, with the Crabzilla, we won the Ballpark Digest Award, and, it was like for best concession item. We're like, how do we celebrate that? Because, it's like great. You can check a box to say that you got something like that. And we were like, you know what, let's come up. How cool would a logo be? And we worked with Grandiose and came up with the kind of what the logo would look like, and kind of made some shirts and some hats at first. And that's originally where it was going to end. And literally I'm having the hat and I'm like, how can we make this a uniform and make a whole day out of this? And I literally took the hat and started like dancing around with it. I was like, wouldn't it be funny to see that go across the field? How could we do that? And I was like, put it on the back of the players. And it was like, no, not their back. Let's put it where the legs, you can literally see the legs go. And so, I went to our merchandise, Anastriano, and said, hey, is this possible? And she looked at me like, yeah, right, John, that's cool. And I'm like, no, I'm being serious. Like, and I would take the hat and went around the office and literally went to 4 or 5 different offices and, did it and and they started laughing. And I'm like, I think this will work. I mean, if that's the reaction we're getting here, and it kind of, are you serious? And we went to Wilson and did the same thing. And they asked the exact same thing. Are you serious? And we're like, yeah, no, we really want a crab to run across the field. And so we were able to get them done. We went through probably 5 or 6 different versions to finally get to where we were, and made them just oddly enough to get people excited. So it was really a great thing. We had so many new people come to the ballpark last night, and they said that they had never been to a game, but they had heard about this Crabzilla and they wanted to get the experience. And Travis, we even had one guy order 7 Crabzillas last night. One dude, and hopefully he was sharing with friends, but that was one where they actually had to go run to the seafood store, Joe Patty's right down the street here, and go get more crabs and more everything else, because we weren't expecting quite that large of an order. So it was crazy.
That's insane. Well, I want to go back to what you were saying in terms of there were like 5 or 6 different versions that you guys were considering. Was it across a wide range of options? Was it really, really crazy on one end and really, really conservative on another? Or were you trying to keep pushing it to get crazier and crazier and crazier? Because like you guys said, you wanted it to be the ugliest uniform in baseball.
Yeah, it was more making it really look like a crab running across the field, honestly, because at first it was kind of, the traditional, when you do the jersey type thing, it's on the jersey, right? So they kept like lowering it down the jersey, and we're like, that's still not getting to that point. And we're like, if we put the eyes literally across, their backside and say, that's where the start of it is, and go legs down, now you can kind of get that, feel for it. And so, and once they realize, like, we're talking about the actual pants, not the jersey, because you got to tuck the jersey in, and getting to that point, I think it was just a new concept. We hadn't seen anybody really do that. And so it was one that we were just trying to trying to stretch the imagination a little bit and see what we could do. And I think we did a pretty decent job with that.
Yeah. And what was the reaction from the players? Because they're the ones who have to actually wear these things.
That's
my biggest concern with this is that it's always like if the team comes up with it, it's great. But at the end of the day, it's still players who have to wear it. So what was the reaction from the guys?
We'll put it this way. We've never hit that many home runs in a game. So I'm thinking we win again on that side. But it was a split thing. There were some guys like, are you kidding me right now? And then you had other guys that embraced it, like, hey, let's go with this, man. This is funny. Ha, ha, ha kind of thing. And really embraced it. But like I said, we had 3 home runs in the first inning last night. I think we had 4 or 5 total last night, 7-2. So we had a good game. I'm not sure if we shouldn't ask for those fans that bought them to bring them back so we can win and get more games that way. So.
And in terms of how you marketed this Crabzilla identity in the uniforms, I mean, your own press release said they were the ugliest uniforms of all time. Jonathan, I think you were quoted in the press release saying they make you want to vomit, something to that effect. But you've put a lot of time into them and clearly you're proud of them. I mean, do you think on a certain level they're beautiful?
I do. I love them. Me personally, I do love them. It's one that they're so bad that they're good type of reaction. That's what a lot of people said. It's like you've taken it to the level of like they're so bad that you still kind of want one. And the fact is that everybody last night who did the auction, and we actually have the auction still going live right now, you actually get the jersey and the pants. So you get a full uniform out of this auction and be able to go. One older lady, she's probably about 70, said, all right, I got my pajamas now when she won her bid. So, it's going to be one of those things that I even saw people asking for Halloween costumes. And I actually have a buddy getting married in Maryland this September. And he goes, hey, are you going to bring those up for the groomsmen? And I was like, oh, that's a great idea.
Yeah. And Chef, I think it's safe to say this is the first time one of your creations has been turned into a uniform and its own standalone identity. What is your reaction to seeing a concession item you created take on literally this whole life of its own?
I like to think of it. I have 3 kids. I like to think of it as my 4th kid, and just watching it grow and into what it's become. It's actually really cool just to think about historically, like they were the Crabzillas for one night based off of an idea that came to fruition, and just, I don't know, it's just really cool that people embrace it the way they have. Being such a different thing.
Sorry.
No, you're good.
Where are your creative juices right now? Like when that happens and things are going that successfully and you see this turned into this, and like you said, you were running out to get more crab last night. Have you gone back to the drawing board trying to come up with a new concoction?
Every day I wake up thinking about how am I going to top the Crabzilla, which I don't know if it's possible. But yeah, I mean, every day it's like, man, what can we do? Because like once you get a taste of something so cool, you want it again, like that feeling of, man, can we create something else that could possibly become a logo for the team for one night kind of thing. Well, I never thought it would happen.
And one of the unique things that Chef does as well, which we're pretty unique in, is every homestand Chef comes up with a new item. So like right now we have the Gump Dump because we're playing Montgomery. And so it is a big old biscuit with a hamburger on it, cheese, sausage, and all this other Creole, all type of stuff. And so it's one that every week Chef comes up with something special. And so eventually I think we're going to hit on another one, I'm sure, with his creativity.
Yeah, it seems pretty likely that down the line there will be something else. But for now, Crabzilla is king. But can you see this coming back in 2022 and beyond? Have you talked about ways to expand upon what you've already done?
We haven't talked about bringing Crabzilla back as far as another day at the ballpark. Next year will be our 10th year anniversary. So we are coming up with, new ideas and things that we're going to do for year 10. We may bring back all the old, and Crabzilla would be a year old, but still old at that point in time. So, we're kind of going to do the best of the 10 years. So after this day, I'm not sure how we could not bring Crabzilla back for that, for sure.
All right. Well, we are looking forward to seeing what happens next in the world of Blue Wahoos concessions in general and Crabzilla specifically. It's been quite a journey so far. So, Appreciate both of you coming on the show. Jonathan Griffith, the president of the Pensacola Blue Wahoos, and executive chef Travis Wilson. Visionaries both. And thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Chronic migraine, 15 or more headache days a month, each lasting 4 hours or more, can make me feel like a spectator in my own life.
Botox, onabotulinum toxin A, prevents headaches in adults with chronic migraine. It's not for those with 14 or fewer headache days a month. It's the #1 prescribed branded chronic migraine preventive treatment.
Prescription Botox is injected by your doctor. Effects of Botox may spread hours to weeks after injection, causing serious symptoms. Alert your doctor right away, as difficulty swallowing, speaking, breathing, eye problems, or muscle weakness can be signs of a life-threatening condition. Patients with these conditions before injection are at highest risk. Side effects may include allergic reactions, neck and injection site pain, fatigue, and headache. Allergic reactions can include rash, welts, asthma symptoms, and dizziness. Don't receive Botox if there's a skin infection. Tell your doctor your medical history, muscle or nerve conditions, including ALS, Lou Gehrig's disease, myasthenia gravis, or Lambert-Eaton syndrome, and medications, including botulinum toxins, as these may increase the risk of serious side effects.
Why wait? Ask your doctor, visit BotoxChronicMigraine.com, or call 1-800-44-BOTOX to learn more.
Huge thanks to the Pensacola Blue Wahoos / Crabzillas / Mullets the alternate identities are plentiful and are all impressive in Pensacola. And a big thanks to the Blue Wahoos for coming on and telling us about the legend of Crabzilla. And that leads us into 3 strikes for this week's episode of the show before the show, where we debate and discuss 3 burning topics across minor league baseball. And we're kicking things off with the new top overall prospect in all of baseball after the graduation of Wander Franco from that list for the Tampa Bay Rays. Adley Rutschman, the catching prospect in the Baltimore Orioles organization, is now the #1 prospect in baseball and is a fairly new member of the AAA Norfolk Tides. I talked to him a couple of nights ago after his first game in Norfolk when he went 2 for 4 with a double and an RBI. And also, oh, by the way, caught a 1-hit shutout for the Tides. Pretty impressive debut. Sam, for Adley Rutschman making this jump, he is now on the doorstep of Baltimore. When he called, I said, man, AAA is pretty easy. I guess we'll see you in Baltimore soon. And he laughed and he was like, yeah, man, if only it was that simple with baseball. But very impressive start to continue a very impressive year.
Yeah, I mean, this was a long time coming, this promotion. Let's be honest. Like, I feel like we were sharing there are 6 games a week. We were sharing Adley highlights like 3 or 4 times a week just because he was doing something almost every night at the ballpark. And there's a reason why he's the #1 overall prospect in the game now that Wander Franco is graduated. And it's because he just does everything really well, maybe outside of running. He's not the greatest runner in the world, but he's a very good defensive catcher. Anybody you talk to who throws to him loves throwing to him. He's a great receiver, got a pretty good arm back there. But he can also hit, and he can hit for legit power. He had 18 home runs in 80 games. He controls the strike zone well. He had a near even 57 to 55 strikeout to walk ratio, which helped him post a 392 on base percentage. I mean, he was doing everything at Bowie that he really should have been. I thought this move was going to be coming in July, if not even a little earlier. Like, I don't know how much he really had to prove being a #1 overall pick, being somebody with a ton of college pedigree. He was very, very good at Oregon State. He should have been a quick mover. Seemed to tick all the boxes in the first half at Bowie. They kept him there a little bit longer. Part of me thinks that may have been to work with Grayson Rodriguez for longer, a DL Hall for a little bit longer. I know DL Hall has been dealing with injuries, but they have a lot of talent at that Bowie site. And that's probably going to be the future of Orioles baseball is that Baysox group. So you keep Rutschman with them. They get to know each other very well. They become closer teammates. That by the time they do all make the majors, probably roughly around the same time, there won't be that much of a transition from a teammate perspective. So I understand that to some degree, but at the other side, you need Rutschman to be challenged. I mean, he's not going to get better if he's hitting 3 homers a week with a couple of doubles and, walking more than he struck out, which again, he was doing that roughly even at some point, but I'm sure that the scales were going to tip the other way the more he saw AA pitching. So now he's going to get that challenge at AAA. I'm not expecting a major league debut to come this year just because this AAA debut is coming a little late in the game with about 6 weeks left in the season. But especially because the Orioles don't need Rutschman. They're not trying to play for anything down the stretch. You could make an argument that if he really tears it up in Norfolk, you would want him to get his feet wet at the top level. I'm always on board with that. I think major league experience can only help guys. he would come back in 2022 with some knowledge of the game. But given where the Orioles are right now in the standings, and that they don't need Rutschman right now, and they'd much rather have him finish strong than potentially finish challenged at the major league level, I understand it. But yeah, it was certainly exciting to see him finally take that step. And like you wrote, speaking to him, Tyler, he seems to have taken to AAA extremely well. Anything else stand out from your conversation with him in writing that story?
He's just such a mature guy. Being a first overall pick 2 years ago, the thing that was kind of interesting in that story is I think you just assume that a guy like that gets to the next level and it's just all business as usual. And, there's not a whole lot of nerves and there's nothing else. But for Adley Rutschman, he said you try to keep it business as usual, but it definitely, in the back of your mind that things are different. And that was cool. He's talking about being in a new ballpark, feeling what the area of dirt behind home plate is, getting set with the lights. All of those different things when you enter a new facility and you're playing, from a new dugout and in a new clubhouse. And he also talked a little bit about the only other promotion that he's had in season was 2 years ago when he went from short season to low A. And that time around, he said going from Aberdeen at that point to Delmarva was like attending a new school. Like he didn't know anybody, had just been drafted a couple of months beforehand, and you're going into a new situation in kind of an uncomfortable way. He said this year, knowing so many guys, being able to go up to a level where teammates from earlier in the season in Bowie, who are now up in Norfolk, know him, that made him a lot more comfortable. I talked with one of his relievers, Kyle Bradish, who I did not realize this, but not only had he and Kyle Bradish worked together last year in the alt site, this year in spring training and in Double-A, Kyle also told me they pitched and caught together. They worked as battery mates in the Cape Cod League back when they were in college. And to be with somebody who obviously knows you that well as a catcher, it was neat listening to those two describe how much the other guy had grown since they last worked together 10, 12 weeks ago when they were in Bowie together when Kyle was there at the start of the season. Adley Rutschman just really does seem like the whole package. We talked to him obviously last year on the podcast and had a lengthy conversation with him. And it just seems as though he continues to grow in every way that you would expect as a top prospect, but also in ways that are still extremely impressive. So it's, it seems full steam ahead for Orioles fans to continue being as excited as possible for Adley Rutschman. And now he's knocking on the door, which is very cool in Baltimore. So that brings us to strike two, which is a fun conversation for this point of the year. Sam, for breakout prospects in 2021, who has been your favorite story this year and why?
Yeah, there's so many different ways we could kind of go with this. There are some names that we knew coming in who have outperformed what was expected of them. There are some, like, I know I'm a big fan of Francisco Alvarez, who I think has done tremendous work this year in the Mets system, who we always thought was good and has really kicked it up a notch to probably be the number 2 catching prospect in baseball behind Adley Rutschman. But one I want to highlight, because as we're doing our top 100 re-rank for MLB Pipeline, and his name keeps coming up as somebody who, maybe we could push even higher, or anybody you talk to is very high on this guy, is Anthony Volpe of the New York Yankees system. And it's not like he's my favorite breakout prospect because of a backstory or anything. He was a first-round pick coming out of New Jersey. He was actually teammates with Jack Leiter at the Del Barton School in Morristown, New Jersey. So when the Yankees took him, it felt like kind of taking a local kid. He is a shortstop. So there is some value there, like developing him. He was considered an above average bat, an above average fielder, maybe nothing plus necessarily, a decent runner. And this year he's really taken off offensively to the point where he's one of the best offensive shortstops in all of minor league baseball. Just going through his line, he's hitting .306 with a .441 on base percentage and slugging .616. This isn't over some small sample. This is over 78 games. He's got 18 homers, 26 stolen bases, checking every single offensive box that there is to check here. And he's doing this at both low A Tampa, which is where he started the season. And for all of you who know, low A Southeast is normally, the former FSL, is normally not an easy place for hitters to hit. Tampa is a little bit more of a bandbox than is typical of stadiums in the Sunshine State. But still hitting 12 homers and slugging 623 down there is going to be special no matter what. And he's carried that to high A Hudson Valley, where once again, he is slugging above 600. He's got 6 homers in 24 games. He's batting above 300 again. He's at 316 as we're speaking right now. His offensive growth has been really special. And now we're getting to the point where he might be the top prospect in that Yankee system. We're still having discussions about that, where he's going to end up being placed amongst the Yankees. But talk about somebody who else was in that system was Jason Dominguez, one of the most hyped prospects we've had in years in terms of somebody we hadn't seen yet at a full season level. Anthony Volpe may have passed him. At least it's very neck and neck because of what he can do offensively. So I think he's definitely needs to be at the top of the list in terms of best breakout stars of the year. Somebody we weren't really talking about as a top 100 candidate to begin, now is at that level, if not even much, much higher. But there are so many other ones we could go through. Noelvi Marte, I think, has been really special. He's played his way into top 20 consideration in that Mariners system. Alvarez, I already mentioned. Jordan Walker in the St. Louis Cardinals system has been posting really special exit velocities all year. He's kind of right there with Nolan Gorman in my eyes for like best power hitter in that card system, which isn't something I wouldn't have envisioned saying at the beginning of the year. Walker's always been power over hit. I get that, but Gorman is really special with the power bat, and Walker may have passed him just because of how much he's massacring balls. So it's been pretty special to get back to looking at breakout prospects and get to a place where guys can break out and it's not happening behind closed doors anymore.
How do you feel about Griffin Conine? He's reached 30 homers. He had 29 in his minor league career coming into this season, albeit, over 137 games, I guess. But in 86 games this year, he's got 30 homers. The average isn't much. He's a 236 hitter as of today, but he reaches at a 355 rate, and that slugging percentage is 569 this season. He's a number 16 prospect right now in the Marlins organization.
Yeah, I mean, the funny thing about Griffin Conine is he's been neck and neck with MJ Melendez, who is somebody I should have mentioned there. As somebody who's doing the Royals list. The Royals are very high on it, MJ Melendez, and his breakout this year with the power bat has been really special. Melendez is a really, really good catcher. We always knew that, but he was hitting in the 100s 2 years ago at high A and is now he's going to end the year with 30 plus home runs between AA and AAA. So that race between Conine and Melendez is going to be really special. I know we talked about it a couple weeks ago, but yeah, Conine is certainly putting his name on the map, especially as the son of, former Mr. Marlin himself.
Well, that brings us to our final strike for this week's Three Strikes, which is kind of connected, talking about breakout prospects and all of that. MLB Pipeline's prospect re-ranks, midseason prospect re-ranks coming to the MLB Pipeline site here very shortly. Sam obviously taking one of the lead roles in that. Sam, how do we evaluate and look at prospect progression at this point of a season, especially when it comes to evaluating where guys kind of fit into their systems?
Yeah, I mean, it's been fascinating for this year because we didn't get any prospect performance unless it was on the major league side in 2020. And a lot of times that led to graduations. And especially when we're talking about our midseason re-rank here, if guys were in the majors last year, they probably graduated this year. There are some exceptions to that, of course. I'm thinking immediately of Joey Bart, for example, but still, for the most part, we were basing it off what they've done this year. And for a lot of these guys, we haven't seen them ourselves since 2019. So it's how far have you come? What are you doing differently? We talked just recently about MJ Melendez, somebody, again, who was hitting in the 100s. He really needed to improve, and he's done that. He's basically turned his offensive performance around. So it's been interesting to follow this year because so much of our preseason rankings were based off of what we had heard versus what we had seen. And now that's tipping the other direction. You don't want to base too much off of 3 months of performance. Like anything, prospect rankings are about projection going forward, who we think is most likely to impact a major league roster someday. But the fact that this recent data is basically the best we have going back now 2 years. There is a little bit more to lean on this year, and you might be looking at the first half more than you would in a normal year, more than we would have in 2019 or 2018. So it's been really fascinating to follow that. You also have to take some grains of salt, of course, because some of these guys didn't play much, if at all, in 2020. They may not even been at Instructs or at the alternate site. They could have been coming off injuries. They could have been working out at home for much of the year. So we may not even gotten that strong of a report off of them from 2019 or from 2020 rather. And they may have started out rusty this year, just getting back into game action. It certainly sounds like, especially at the lower levels, the gameplay was really rusty as guys were trying to find themselves both offensively, defensively, on the mound, et cetera, et cetera. And now as we work deeper into the year, maybe guys' stuff is falling off a little bit as they work deeper and deeper into innings and start to hit those innings limits. So there's just so much more that goes into it this year than really ever before. But I do think we are leaning on 2021 performance more than we would have in a typical season, just because really this is all we have going back the last 2 years.
And that'll do it for Three Strikes on this week's episode of the show before the show. We're back to wrap it up next.
All right, listen up, nacho chips. Quiet down, crispy potatoes. This is the moment Velveeta's been preparing you for, and you're not about to crack under pressure. Today's the day to go all in on the drip. Velveeta's Heat and Eat Queso is the MVP of any game day spread, so stick by them, and you'll be golden. Now get out there and make delicious history. No tailgate party is complete without Velveeta.
No Ghost of the Miners this week, as the pickle has fallen off my ham sandwich. But, as you'll recall from last time, this is the question for next time. Which of these adorable Whittle clubs was born unto a bygone miners' circuit? A. The Eau Claire Fawns. B. The Yakutat Pups. C. The Elgin Kittens. Want to know the answer? Cuddle up with an encyclopedia. Or tune into the next Ghosts of the Miners.
Final segment of this week's episode of the show before the show, MiLB.TV, where you can catch all of the top talent of minor league baseball across the final, 6-8 weeks now of the minor league season, as we're coming kind of down to the wire. Sam, what are you watching on MiLB TV this week?
Yeah, I mean, I got my eye on Portland at Somerset. Tristan Casas is just coming back from the Olympics. We didn't even really talk about the Olympics. We previewed the Olympics beforehand. The United States of America coming in second place, so getting silver medals against Japan. And the Dominican Republic, led by Julio Rodriguez, getting bronze. So it was a pretty good Olympics, I feel like, overall for prospects. But yeah, Casas coming up, he was one of the best power hitters in that USA lineup that was filled with some names you probably know back home. Todd Frazier immediately comes to mind and some other veterans, but he looked like somebody who hasn't played at Double-A. He fit in pretty well in that veteran led lineup. So Cass is back. I expect he's going to be start to play pretty soon, but Portland is playing at Somerset. So there's a little bit of a Red Sox Yankees vibe going on there as well. Try to catch him if you can. I wouldn't be surprised if he's in AAA Worcester at some point pretty soon. Maybe he'll be there pretty quickly, actually, coming off that performance. But Casas is definitely one to watch in the Red Sox system right now. And coming off that Olympics, he's going to be jazzed. So catch him while you can. Tyler, what do you got your eye on?
Yeah, I'm turning to high A in the Cincinnati Reds organization, where 17th overall pick, first round selection, Matt McLean is now a member of that roster out of UCLA. He made his high A debut, went 4 for 5, was a triple away from the cycle, belted a homer, drove in 5 runs for his team at Lansing. Dayton will be at Lansing for the remainder of this weekend. Then they return home to Lake County next week for a 6-game homestand from Tuesday through Sunday. So you can catch those games on MiLB.TV. And pretty fun little lineup there in Dayton now. So that'll do it for this week's episode of the show before the show. Big thanks to our guests from Pensacola and all of you for tuning in. You can get in touch with us, podcast at MiLB.com. Sam's on Twitter at Sam Dykstra, MiLB. I am at Tyler Mon. And for Sam, I'm Tyler. We'll talk to you next week.